We're here with Abraham Foxman, who is the Director Emeritus of the Anti-Defamation League. But you know, we would be remiss if we didn't say his decades-long career advanced civil rights in the United States, and he was one of the major proponents for getting hate crime laws passed, along with a slew of other things. The ADL was the first national group to count hate crime starting in 1979. They've been involved in the Brown versus Board case, and they started back in 1913 with the lynching of Leo Frank in Georgia. It is such an honor to see you today, Mr. Abraham Foxman. Thank you so much for speaking with us. First thing, having decades as the head of the leading civil rights group, also Jewish civil rights group, in the United States, what are some things that you've seen over the course of your career there? Because of many decades.
You know what? I'm still not into my anecdotage. I'm still not at that stage in my life where I'm ready. It's a very important question to ask. I've seen some ups and downs, but I'm not ready yet to assess for you what were the highlights. I will say this to you. In terms of anti-Semitism, the continued persistence of this disease, its prevalence, its continued prevalence is still an enigma. I came 50 years ago to the Anti-Defamation League, and I read many of the treatises and the prognosis. And the prognosis was anti-Semitism is finished, it's gone. Halavai, if only it was true. It's not gone. Unfortunately, it's probably at a new height in terms of the last 50 years. So,
But do you really think, I mean, if you look at the social surveys that say, for instance, 90% of Americans would vote for a Jewish person for president if they fit, you know, other criteria that they were in agreement politically. Hate crimes over the last 10 years against Jewish people, according to the FBI, down about 35 to 40%, in large part because of the work that you and your organization did.
it's all relative in terms of how you measure it. Now, if you take a look at the Jewish community today, we can live where we want, we can work what we want, we can study what we want, we can do what we want. Socially, we've been accepted. And yet, there is still this element of this anti-Semitism. So we've broken all these barriers on the social basis, but the Jew is still singled out in media, singled out in the stereotypes that we've lived with, unfortunately, for hundreds of years. So it is, on one hand, yeah, and on the other hand, the Jew is still singled out. In terms of hate crimes, in terms of religion as a target, Jews continue to be the #1 target. After all the laws and all the progress and all the openness and all the acceptance, Jews are still the #1 target of hate crimes in this country.
What would you say the alt-right's reinvigoration, if you will, has done with respect to anti-Semitism? The ADL recently came out with a report on internet hate and also hate against journalists.
Look, it has given it a new legitimacy. I think the advent of the internet, social media, is still something we have not yet totally understood as to how it's changing our society. We know it's destroyed privacy. I'm seeing it destroying civility. Civility is a major, major component of tolerance and respect. But if you do away with civility, so first of all, people don't talk to you. They send you messages. That also the anonymity, the lack of responsibility, the lack of consequences. That's changing things. Look, in terms of the discussion of the Trump election, why should it wasn't about us. This election was not about Jews, it was not about Israel, it wasn't. But it has an impact on us. Why? In my view, the rights of Jews, as you've just indicated, is based on a civil contract. In our country, in our tradition, you can be a bigot. The Constitution guarantees you the right to be a bigot. What does it mean? You can be a bigot in your heart. You could be a bigot in your home. But if you take it outside, there's a consequence, not a legal consequence. You'll pay a price. If you're in business and you act out anti-Semitism, after a while, you're not going to be very successful in business. If you're a politician and engage in anti-Semitism, yeah, you may get elected once, but your chances are you won't get elected twice. So, in this election, the president-elect made political correctness almost a sin and a crime. To me, it's not a sin and a crime. It's part of the border that provides for our civility in this society. What happened in this election is all the taboos were broken. And when you publicly break the taboos, you almost give a hechsher, you give a legitimacy to bigotry. To what extent, how far it will go, we don't know. I'm an optimist, so I hope the president-elect now understands, the damage. He's already talked 3 or 4 times how important it is to bring us together.
But he hasn't made any specific kind of speech of the kind that we've seen presidents in the past make.
What date are we? December 3rd. It's a little bit early. He's got a lot on his plate. So I think we need to be patient. Again, if you're bean counting, he did it on 60 Minutes. He said stop it. He did it in his interview on the New York Times where he said I rejected it, etc. He did it in Cincinnati just recently. So it's growing. I think what we expect in our business is that presidential moment, that address to the nation, where he spells out what prejudice can do, how it hurts, how it will undermine America. I don't know what side he's going to take. Hopefully, it could be the Holocaust Museum, it could be the African American Museum in Washington. That's, from our perspective, that needs to be. Why? Because leadership matters. Leadership matters. The Billy Pulpit matters. And I believe that we're going to get there. And then it'll be a lot easier to put the bigotry back into sewers and put the cover on it.
During your tenure at the ADL, one of the more success, you had many successes, obviously, and it's almost like taking a major leaguer and picking some moments. But if you'll bear with me, one of the things that I think most impressed people was the work you've done on hate crime, but additionally, the work that you did in interfaith relations and intergroup relations. The ADL spoke out against homophobia. In fact, you hired regional directors who were gay. You had great regional directors right here in San Diego, Morris Casuto, Lenny Zakem up in Boston. And one of the hallmarks of what they did, presumably under your direction and guidance as well, was reaching out across different lines. For instance, against Islamophobia, against homophobia. Is that difficult when you have a constituency that is more unitary? In other words, your donors presumably are mostly Jewish.
It's a question of education. Just like you're educating the outside, everybody else, you got to educate our own. The fact is, the Anti-Defamation League 103 years ago was established on 2 pillars, on 2 principles. To fight the defamation of the Jewish people, which was a euphemistic way to say anti-Semitism, because in 1913 even used that word was a little bit worrisome for some, and to provide for equal opportunity. We then said for all citizens alike. By the way, we've amended it about 10 years ago because we realized that saying citizens was a limiting factor. So we said for all, because if you only say citizens, so you don't protect the rights of non-citizens, you don't fight their discrimination. So that's been the ADL approach, philosophies. I didn't accomplish, I just fulfilled the mandate of our founding fathers of 103 years ago. Is it sometimes difficult? Yeah, because the internal community wants first and foremost fight for us. Sometimes there's conflict, but not really. But I think we can't protect our rights unless we protect everybody's rights.
When the Pope would come to the United States, the first person from the Jewish community that he'd meet with would be you. You have been very active in Jewish-Catholic relations. Can you tell us about? I
it's a
think
long
that's
story.
But I think it's one of your biggest achievements.
It's a long story. That's my personal cross to bear.
Well, your personal story, right? Can you
Right.
tell?
Okay. So
Most people
I
won't know that
survived the
story,
Holocaust,
right?
as a Catholic. I was a hidden child. I was baptized. I was protected, if you will, by the Catholic Church. So yes, I know the history of persecution. Yes, I know the Inquisition. Yes, I know all of that, and yet I know that they were good people. Courageous people. The nanny that risked her life to save me, the priest who baptized me, and these are all risks that they had to take. So
You wouldn't have been here otherwise.
that's true.
God forbid.
And then just a side note, and then continue on with Brian. The priest knew that you were a Jew when he baptized you?
I was circumcised, yes.
Oh, okay.
And my nanny didn't have documents to prove that I was hers. Yeah, he did. Yeah. Yeah. Anyway, so it has a special meaning for me. The truth is that in my lifetime, in your lifetime, the Catholic Church, which was the major enemy of the Jewish people, has now.
You'd go so far to say that.
Yes. Oh, it was. Absolutely it was. Christianity was. Absolutely. It legitimized a lot of things because.
Well, they deicide for one. right?
Absolutely. So.
Pre-Vatican II.
Yeah. Ironically, today, it's come so far. John Paul's. They basically changed. Dogma, because dogma was that Christianity superseded Judaism, that Christianity superseded God's promise to Abraham. Okay, and therefore everything that was going on to Jews was okay. Okay. Vatican II and John Paul changed the dogma by saying Jews were not superseded. They have their own route and road to salvation. The most important thing that he did was going to shul, going to synagogue. Going to synagogue was a total rejection of hundreds of years of teaching of contempt against the Jews. So it's not what I did. It's I recognize it.
But you
and
were
I
in a
embraced
particular
it.
you were in a particular place. In other words, I don't think if we had someone who did not have your history,
Maybe.
that it would have been the
Maybe
same.
there were scholars, there were leaders. Maybe I just had a more of a personal, emotional track to it. But no, I think they've earned it. They still have to fix a relationship with Israel, which is still out there. But
But when
that
they
too will
refer
come.
us to their as elder brothers and sisters, I know there's been a little
Right.
debate about that. Any thoughts on that?
Listen, I don't study I don't get excited about the where everybody's got all kinds of issues. He did say we are the elder brother, okay, and that means we have a present and a future, and that's very, again, sitting down in that synagogue changed everything, and then every pope since can't pass a synagogue without dropping in. So.
You spoke out against anti-Muslim prejudice when it wasn't.
Before, yeah.
Do you still feel that's important today with the increase in hate
Absolutely.
crimes
I think
against
we need
Muslims?
to be able to differentiate and distinguish between extremist Islam and those that preach it, and the religion, and the people who practice it.
But we're now seeing Muslims being broad brushed as the whole faith, being somehow antithetical to American values or the Abrahamic sister faith. What would you say to people who profess
Prejudice.
that?
If you paint with a brush the Jewish people, the Christian people, and now you paint with a brush the Muslim people, yeah, it's prejudice. It's prejudice.
Last question before we let you go and let you go on with the other
Well,
producers here.
We'll give you 3 questions. 'Cause you just
Okay, fantastic. What do you see as the biggest achievements or biggest developments during your tenure as national director of the ADL? Passage of hate crime laws or the Jewish Catholic?
I don't think there's one thing. I don't think there's one sure. The passing of the hate crime law was very dramatic and very exciting. Listen, and also my time Vatican II was very dramatic and very exciting. I don't think there's one thing. I think it's a coming together of a lot of things that began to change the atmosphere, that began to change the level of prejudice. Again, it's still there, but it's look, we can measure it, we can quantify it, we have tools to deal with it, and it's still with us. So I guess If you're asking me for one significant thing, it's the failure to eliminate it.
What can communities do better, local communities, in your view, do better to combat prejudice at home?
Well, first it's a recognition and understanding that prejudice exists, that no community is immune, and that leadership makes a difference. Public voice, condemnation, criticism, the moral voice does make a difference.
And where do you see the direction of civil rights and the ADL in the next 5-10 years?
I think that's a couple of years ago, I wrote a book called Viral Hate, and it dealt with the internet. I think that's our biggest challenge. How do we balance freedom of speech, civility with the information revolution? When you and I were younger, our mantra was, how do you deal with bad speech? With good speech. How do you answer bad speech good? But now when bad speech comes as tsunami, how do you answer that tsunami? It's not one for one. We have to better understand algorithms and what they mean. I have said to the people in Palo Alto, God bless you. You have created a revolution, but you've also brought about unintended consequences. You have provided a superhighway for bigotry. You have created avenues for prejudice which we could not imagine. You have a responsibility. It's not your fault. I'm not blaming you. But you have to use that same genius to find ways in science to measure and balance it. That's our greatest challenge, because I don't think we now yet understand how it is changing. We have generations who won't ever know what a newspaper is. I don't know if they're going to read books, who communicate to you anonymously. My grandkids talk to me like this. Okay, I don't want to talk to them like that, but I have to recognize that's the only way they're going to talk to me. And so this is the challenge. How do we harness this great miracle, this great scientific miracle of knowledge, information, communication, revolution, to make sure that the underbelly, which is a superhighway for all that's ugly, is controlled in a way consistent with our laws and our principles.
I want to close up with your view on two things. One, anti-Semitism in Europe, and two, the controversies on college campuses involving Israel. Pick either one you want first.
Oh,
Those were not two quick, brief questions.
listen, I am fearful that there is no future for Jews in Europe.
Really?
Yeah.
Coming from you, that's very scary.
Because I don't see, we had a 9/11 moment in this country where we changed our values system, we changed our priorities, we ready to sacrifice things that we're still not happy with, but we understood the crisis and the moment. I'm not sure that Europe has understood and experienced the 9/11. Yes, Paris, there are tragedies all over, but I don't think they have had that moment. And that moment needs to protect democracy, not the Jews. Because
the Jews will suffer first, you think?
If you protect democracy, the Jews will be fine. I don't think they understand it. I don't think they've come to grips with it. What you're seeing is a movement of nationalism to the right, etc.
But that's happening here too.
And I wouldn't compare it. Yeah, the same words, populism, could be used. It's not the same thing. Our history is not, etc., etc. But the danger is that the good people don't take it as seriously as they should. How long are French gendarmes going to protect Jewish schools? It's unreal. A year, 2 years, and then what? And then you have the reverse. College campuses is another story. I don't think BDS is a great danger that we've made it. I think we've given a victory to the Arabs. BDS is an anti-Semitic movement, because if you go to listen, the Pope said it. The Pope said anybody who questions the legitimacy of the Jewish state today is anti-Semitic. That's what BDS is all about. It's questioning the legitimacy of the Jewish people to have their own homeland, their own state. And that's got a little bit of a foothold, but at the end of the day, no university has changed policy, no program has changed, but some of the kids are suffering because we haven't trained them sufficiently to stand up and how to deal with it, which is what we're going to do in a moment.
Well, thank you so much, Abe Foxman. It is a pleasure to talk to you. And on behalf of the Center for the Study of Hate and Extremism, thank you so much for
Thank
talking
you.
with us today.
All right.